Hi, welcome to the second part of the SwiftUI mini course for beginners. In this video, we will get familiar with Xcode. You will learn how Xcode is structured and how to use it as a tool for creating iOS apps. If you are already familiar with Xcode, feel free to skip this video. However, if you are completely new to iOS development, make sure to watch this video carefully because knowing how Xcode works is crucial for learning iOS app development. What is Xcode used for? As you learned in the last video, Xcode is Apple's in-house integrated development environment. When developing iOS apps, it is the software you work with most often. Therefore, it is very important to have a profound knowledge of Xcode and to master the basics from scratch. In Xcode, you set up the user interface of your app and write the code that makes your app run. And beside running your app on a physical device, Xcode also offers you the possibility to run and test your app on a virtual simulator. To get in touch with the software, just open Xcode and click on Create a new Xcode project. Next, click on App under the Multi-Platform section. Then click on Next and give your app any name you want. For example, SwiftUI Demo App. Go ahead selecting a location for your project and creating it. What you see now may feel a bit overwhelming. Don't worry, this feeling is perfectly fine and will pass when you understand the basics of how Xcode is constructed. Fortunately, the interface is designed pretty straightforward. It basically consists of 5 sections. Let's take a quick look at each of them. The toolbar. The toolbar allows you to perform several basic tasks like executing your app or setting preferences. On the left side of the toolbar, you can select the device on which you want to run your app. For instance, a simulated iPhone 12 Pro. The center of the toolbar tells you when Xcode is working on something. The button on the left side is responsible for showing and hiding the navigator area, which we will talk about now. The navigator area helps you finding your way around your project and organizing your code and resources. By default, the project navigator mode is selected. This is probably the most important mode of the navigator area. The project navigator lists the different files containing your app's code and assets. The more complex your app becomes, the more files your project will contain. To keep track of those, you can create groups. For example, let's create a group called Views and place the contentview.swift file into it. However, where you are placing your files within your navigator area usually does not affect the logic of your code or the behavior of your app. Perhaps you're wondering what these 3 groups are all about. With Xcode 12 and SwiftUI, Apple is encouraging developers to develop apps that run cross-platform on iOS and macOS. This can be noticed by the fact that Xcode automatically generates so-called multi-platform app templates. In the navigator area, you can see this group named Shared. The shared group contains the files that are used by all platforms. By platforms, we mean Mac and iOS. There are also other groups where platform-specific adjustments can be made. For example, the iOS group only contains files that are relevant for running the app on iOS devices. This course focuses on developing iOS apps. However, all files can also be stored within the shared group. This is because those files can also be used for running the apps on macOS. When you click on a file, it will open up in the editor area. This is the place where you can edit it. The appearance of the editor area depends on which file type is opened. If not already done yet, click on the contentview.swift file to open up this file in the editor area. Swift files are the heart of every iOS app. In these, you compose the interface of your app and write the actual code that makes your app run. Next, let's talk about the utility area. You can show and hide this area by clicking the corresponding button on the right side of the toolbar. Similar to the editor area, the appearance of the utility area depends on what file type you have selected. For instance, you can access metadata and references of the specific file here. Especially this area often confuses beginners. This is because the use of this area depends on the particular situation. But the more you work with Xcode, the more you get a feeling for it. You'll see it's much easier than it looks at first sight. The last one of Xcode's 5 main sections is the debug area. You can show this area by going to your toolbar and selecting the View tab. Next, click on Debug Area, then on Show Debug Area. Here you will find all the relevant output that Xcode provides you with while you run your app. For example, occurring errors or executed print statements. This area becomes very important when it comes to finding and fixing errors and bugs of your app. Often the output is very long, so you can use the filter function to easily find certain output. Congratulations! Now you know the basics of Xcode and are ready to start developing iOS apps with SwiftUI. Don't worry if you feel a little overwhelmed. You'll see the more you deal with it, the more comprehensible everything becomes. In case you have trouble with working something out, do not hesitate to write a comment. In the next video, we will create our first mini app and learn how to create user interfaces using SwiftUI. We hope to see you in the next part of this course. Until then, make sure to subscribe to this channel to not miss any new videos.